Today, I let you know what the best decks are in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. I'm first gonna give you the 5 decks that most people agree are the best decks. However, I'm also gonna give you a list of decks that I find pretty strong as well. There are plenty of other decks that are probably solid. So it's not like you have to play one of these 5 or you have to play some of these other ones that I'm going to mention. If there's anything else you want to play, enjoy. But do note that the decks I'm about to mention are probably going to be stronger than the nostalgia kind of deck like an Elemental Hero or like a Blue Eyes or something like that. Again, if you want to play that, enjoy. Do whatever you want. But these decks are the powerhouses that will give you the best odds of climbing ranked on Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. I do not have every single list built right here. Luckily, I got some help from Kissa Matt, which is an amazing Twitch mod and Discord mod on different fights plays, and he essentially gave me some lists. The first archetype, the first deck, the, in my opinion, best deck is Virtual World. Now, this deck does a lot. But what it comes down to is making the most unfair card that is currently legal in this game. And that is Calamities. Now let me show you what Calamities actually does. This ridiculous card, what it boils down to is you don't get to play the game. None of your shit works. So Virtual World makes this. Then you call an attribute, let's say Divine Beast or whatever, and then your opponent basically doesn't get to activate effects or anything. They don't get to do anything. And so you basically win, because then they pass the turn to you, and then you just destroy them. The most key card in this deck is Lulu. She's a very strong, nice card. She does a bunch of stuff. There is a good reason why in the English Yu-Gi-Oh! Game, Calamities is banned. So that is the #1 deck. In my opinion, you're probably gonna see this wreck the entire ladder at some point. But maybe not. Again, this is a bit of a weird ban list, so maybe something changes. The second deck, which is also very, very strong, is Prank Kits. Now, Prank Kits is actually pretty cool if you're on a budget, in my opinion. Now, it's not the most budget-friendly deck, but it's more budget-friendly than some of the other things we're going to be talking about. What Prank Kits do is essentially every single normal summon you do leads to a bunch of these guys. They're all so cute. Look at them. You have Dropsies. Aw, such a cutie. You have all these cute little guys, and basically you normal summon one, and then all the others start coming out. It all then leads to this link monster right here, Meow Meow. Now, in the English metagame, this card is limited to 1, which means the deck isn't all that strong, but here, he isn't. Pretty simple. Again, you can just YouTube Prank Kits combos, and you'll probably be fine learning them. Very strong deck, and again, also relatively budget-friendly. Like, if you look at the URs that you need, or at the SRs that you need, look, all of these Prank Kits are all normals, so that's very easy to craft. This Pandemonium thing, very easy. All normal, 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 normal. Then you have some links that are all rare, 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 rare. Then you have a fusion, that's rare. Your little field spell, okay, that's SR, whatever. Meow Meow, strongest card, SR. This rocket thing, SR. Now, the only thing that you need in UR is maybe 1 copy of Butler and 1 copy of this Roarin'. So just like that, you have a very, very affordable deck, in my opinion, that is also pretty easy to get into. So if you're trying to be competitive and you're not super, super into Yu-Gi-Oh! Just yet, this might be the deck for you. And when everyone was asking me in Twitch chat, like, what should I build? What should I build? I'm new, what should I build? Usually I tell them Prank Kits. Now, #3 on the most competitive decks is Tri-Brigade. But not just Tri-Brigade. Tri-Brigade can actually be combined with other archetypes. So the most known one, maybe, is Tri-Brigade Zodiac. Now, Tri-Brigade, when you just look at them in a vacuum, are all about link spamming. And more specifically, they can also create link monsters in their opponent's turn, which is something not many decks or cards tend to do. Also, lots of like value from getting them from the graveyard. And then if you combine them with Zodiac, essentially Zodiac is a very easy way to make Exesis, specifically Trident. And then that can lead to another incredibly strong card, and that is Zeus. So Zeus is a boss monster that you should know, because a lot of the best decks are able to make it. Virtual World, like we spoke about earlier, can also make it, and this basically wipes boards. It ignores everything, it just wipes boards. And so if you play the Zodiac package inside your Tri-Brigade, you can run Zeus very easily and also wipe boards. Very strong going second as well. Now, another variant of Tri-Brigade is actually Tri-Brigade with some Lyrilusk inside. Lyrilusk is relatively new, I want to say. Like, it isn't as known, in my opinion, as the whole Zodiac engine, but it's still pretty strong as well. Next, on this list of the strongest decks, we have Drytron. Drytron is essentially an archetype that brought back rituals. If you remember back in the day, ritual cards, they were already pretty shit, and for the longest time they just remained shit. Drytron magically made them playable in their own way. So if that's something that sounds appealing to you, maybe Drytron is your kind of deck. Finally, on these top 5 strongest decks to climb ladder with, we have Eldritch. Eldritch is a zombie deck, but it's not your typical zombie deck. If you're used to zombies in Yu-Gi-Oh, you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna revive a lot and I'm gonna create huge zombies. Eldritch doesn't really do that. Eldritch is actually a very heavy trap deck. This is basically the card that it's all about, and he has a bunch of traps and a few spells that recur each other. So you are more so playing a slow control deck, sometimes even with some floodgates like Skill Drain, or you're playing stuff like Solemn Judgment in here, and you're just annoying the hell out of your opponent with these traps that keep on searching other traps so you outvalue them slowly. So this is a very slow, grindy deck. Not many people enjoy playing against it. It is not necessarily as fast as some of the other decks on this top 5 list, but it is still something to keep in mind, especially in a format with Max C, where combo can sometimes get shut down very easily. Eldritch, very strong deck as well, and one of my personal favorites. Now I just want to show you a few more decks that are also pretty good. Now they're not necessarily as strong as the ones just mentioned, but they're still solid. I think they can still compete, and they're also some fan favorites from competitive players because they were usually meta maybe a year ago or maybe 2 years ago and so forth. First of all, we have Salamangrade. Now Salamangrade is a bit of a weird one because it has some combos, but then it sets up a bunch of back row. So it's like a trap deck that then also has a little bit of a combo going on, and they can also one-turn kill pretty reliably. So we have things like Sunlight Wolf, we have Gazelle somewhere in here. Right here, he was limited for a pretty good reason. And so yeah, if this is something you're into, basically all flamey animals, do a little combo. Most of the combo usually leads to the exact same thing, so you have like a few ways to reach that. And then you just set some back row, pass to your opponent, and then the next turn, you can probably just OTK them out of the game. Next, we have Sky Striker. Now, Sky Striker is a bit of a waifu archetype. Some people were very excited because of Sky Striker Ray and Sky Striker Kagari, you know, being some waifu material right here. In general, they're a grindier deck that gets a lot of value, and the most important card in here is basically Engage. Engage is like a strong pot of greed. It's one card that turns into 2, and then specifically can search other cards and so forth, so that makes it a bit toolboxy as well. Overall, if you're into robotic waifus or something along those lines, maybe Sky Striker is for you. Next on this list, we have Shaddoll and/or Shaddoll Invoked. So Shaddoll is a pretty old archetype actually. It is a fan favorite for a reason. Back when this first came out, this dominated the meta. It was absolutely insane, and it was all because of this card. This is essentially a going second deck, usually in pure Shaddoll. They just break open a board, or they could also set up something like Winda and then your opponent doesn't get to play the game. Very fun stuff. You do pretty short combos. You don't tend to do all these insane chains that you usually see. However, the Invoked engine actually adds a little bit of a layer to that. It is almost a meme because some people like to say, oh, normal summon Alistair is super boring and so forth. If you're into that, you know, you can go second with this deck, but you can also go first by summoning Alistair like everyone is constantly complaining about, then this might be for you. Overall, I wouldn't say this is like the best deck out there. I don't expect this to be better than Virtual World or anything like that, but I do expect this to be a strong deck at a local tournament or something along those lines, and so I do think you can also see it pop up on ladder. Next, we have my personal favorite deck, and that's Phantom Knights. Now, for this one, we can literally go to my deck right here. This list is not perfect just yet. We're still missing some cards, but it's starting to shape up pretty cool. So the way Phantom Knights works is every single Phantom Knight basically has a skill in general, and then it has another effect from the graveyard. So it is a graveyard-based deck, and every single little thing you do leads to another one from the grave. So for example, Thornscale may send something from your hand and then from your deck, and then after that, when he's in the graveyard, he can summon himself out, and then maybe Silent Boots, for example, can special summon himself if you already have a Phantom Knight, but then you could also just banish him from the graveyard to add a spell or trap. Usually that is something along the lines of Fog Blade, which is like the strongest card in the deck almost. It essentially can stop any monster. You know, it turns off effects, it stops them from attacking. It's a really solid card and you can just search it out just like that. And then after that, in the graveyard, it works like a Monster Reborn or a Call of the Haunted, whatever you want to call it. So overall, very cool graveyard-based deck. You do a lot of little combos. You also have a lot of follow-up play because when your cards go to graveyard, you know, you did your combos, you have a cool field, and they manage to break that field, you still have all these Phantom Knights in your graveyard whose effects you can use to rebuild your field from scratch. So it has a lot of cool follow-up. It's a really cool, edgy, fun deck, but it's not as strong in my opinion as the Virtual World with the Calamities and the Tri-Brigade and so forth. Next, there's Altergeist. Now, this is a deck that everyone loves to hate because Altergeist, just like Eldritch, is a back row deck. So you just set a bunch of traps and you start negating everything your opponent does, and they don't like that. So if you're a little bit of an asshole, that is fine, you know. We all like to be assholes in some ways in our life, and some people like to be it in card games. This is a really awesome deck, you know. You just activate all the traps, stop all the things your opponents are doing, and they don't like it. So that's Altergeist for you. Again, maybe not as strong as some of these super combo decks, not as fast, but again, in a format where Max C is a thing, it gets a bit better. Next up, we have a deck that many people love to hate, and that is Pendulum. Pendulum is also known because of a certain content creator in Yu-Gi-Oh! Who likes to shout. With that being said, Pendulum is really cool if you're into a lot of text. Like, let's look at this card. Look at that text box and try and tell me what it does in 2 sentences. You have a lot of people who are super passionate about it, but if you're newer to Yu-Gi-Oh, it might not be the first deck you want to pick up because, again, there's a lot of reading material, so it might take a little while. With that being said, again, there's some people super passionate about it, so maybe it's still a deck you'll like. Finally, and this is a bit of an honorable mention because this is like a soup. You know, you have a grandma who just takes all of the vegetables and puts it in a kettle and she makes soup from it. That's this deck. The deck that I like to call Chaos Thunder Dragon Link Spam. Because essentially, it is very possible that you are able to make a combo deck in this game that looks like some of the combo decks we have seen the past years. And at full power. The reason for this is because a bunch of the cards that got banned here in the West over time to stop all these combos from happening because they were that insane are legal here. So one of the best players in Yu-Gi-Oh, Jesse Cotton, actually tweeted out a list just now and I was like, holy hell, I want to see this list because I played a bunch of the decks that are like hodgepodged together in this list the past years. Very passively, I'm not a great player, but I just saw it and was like, wow, all of these cards are legal? That's crazy. So have a look at this. Again, shout out to Jesse Cotton, he made this. We have Max C right here, that's banned. Okay. Uni-Zombie, this is like the best starter in order to make all of your zombie fields. Very strong card. We have Ash, that's normal. We have a bunch of dangers. Those dangers are all limited, actually, in the English game, so too bad. We have some more of the zombie cards. Then we have Fairy Tale Snow, which is an incredible card, also banned in English. We have some more dangers. Then we have Thunder Dragon cards. Now, these Thunder Dragon cards aren't actually banned in English, but they aren't being played in English because Thunder Dragon Colossus is banned. This card is insane. This card, so many people hate it, but I love to play it back then. And just the fact that it's legal here and you can make it, that is something. That's not all. We also have Mare together with Destrudo. Now, if you don't know what these do, just assume makes Yahtzee and then you just get a free field. Destrudo, Mare, Yahtzee. Unfair bullshit. Incredible boards will be created just from these. That is insane. Then 3 Danger Nessies. Again, these are all limited in here, so we don't have all that starter and extension and crazy stuff like that. We have 1 Eldritch the Golden Lord, 1 Nibiru, and then we have like 3 Reasoning, which is, I'm pretty sure, limited in the TCG. We have our Allures, Bottle of Desires, and then we have this card. Now this card again, super banned. This deck is a combination of all of the most insane combo spam decks from the last years. It's possible that a variation of this, maybe like a weird Dragon Link deck with a bunch of chaos stuff, anything along those lines might be actually really good. We don't know. People will have to test. But again, I wanted to mention this because I saw this and I just fell in love. And I'm very sure that whether it's Dragon Link or something like this might actually be good. Again, Max C makes these combo decks a bit weaker, but it's still something to keep in mind. And so I wanted to give it to you. Hope you found this very interesting. You should follow me on Twitch. Link will be in the description. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you soon. Ciao.